the repercussions of technology and how technology impacts our culture and societies. And I think there is certainly a sense of panic um, involved with technology and time. There were motifs of clock and the assembly lines. I felt like that was all symbolism towards maybe an impending event or how technology might be used in the future, if we are actually in control of our technology or if it is already out of our hands. And I certainly noticed an ode to maybe even German expressionism. Some of the characters had these faces which were very bright white and dark black. There was kind of those contrasting of the darks and the lights and the cinematography, which kind of took it a step beyond creepy and nightmarish. And it almost felt apocalyptic. It was very intense emotionally. Um, and at times it almost felt like a video game, which I thought also tied into the technology. There were some shots, the animation, there were kind of hands in the shots, looked like you were cutting through a jungle with a machete, felt very video game-esque. But overall, I think this video definitely spoke to kind of the collective anxiety surrounding technology and time.
The use of the motifs that kept coming back and forth and the idea of monotony was very interesting to see. I will say my favorite part, I think, was when it was the part where the character kind of goes into the forest and we kind of get to sit in a first person view perspective. It kind of felt like a video game. The whole film altogether felt like a video game, but I feel like that one specifically, because you're able to see the hands moving, but like from your perspective, and you got to see them going through the bushes and like seeing the praying mantis from our perspective. And I thought that was really, really cool. But back to the monotony of it, I thought that was really interesting to see and kind of seeing um felt like a metaphor for kind of how we get through life, in which we kind of just do what needs to get done and do the same thing over and over and over again. But when you see a little bit of clarity in the sense of seeing what life is like when you do something different and see something new, it's very enticing. The colors changed in the story, the mood, there was a mood shift, and I thought that was reflected very well.
Sort of the assimilation of people and the brainwashing and the sameness that is so normalized, whereas the world outside is so vibrant and different and full of life. And then the factory that all these people are working in is just the same and square and day after day, just doing the same things, moving the same shapes. And you see that these little people, their minds are going from colorful to all the same monotone greens. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. I could see that there was hidden meaning behind it. It was very easy to sort of make out what was happening, even though there wasn't any actual words on screen or dialogue. The animation itself was all that was needed to tell the story, which I thought was really smart and creative. And it was all made very pretty clear as to what was happening. I was still asking a few questions, but I think that was the point of a lot of this film, is to make our own assumptions.
My mind is on AI a lot as of late, so this piece really spoke to me, almost as a fable, if you will, with humanity's hubris surrounding robotics and artificial intelligence and all of that, and it coming to life. I think this piece was really vibrant. I think the sound mixing was really good. I think a lot of the transitions were really good. And you pose a really open narrative that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. And I think with something more widespread like this, that it can be beneficial.
We are given this story that is pretty repetitive and mundane in the action. We just see people, kind of walking through a metal detector, so to speak, as they're walking in line. And this goes for like half of the short in itself. It is dragging, it is not quickly paced. Your mind will kind of drift away in this aspect. Um, and then changes actually start happening. I wasn't expecting much to come out aside from showcasing different elements, different angles of what we were already being met with within the piece. So to go from this simulation to a grasshopper raving between the blades of grass, to being met with the dolphins, to have these visualizer elements that match well with the music, and then having these jump scares kind of enter the screen with, insect-like demon eyes. It is definitely an experience that it does get a little out of control and out of hand, which does, lead back to the resonance of the title here.
It was very psychedelic and it had very strong avant-garde elements to it. My take on the story is that this is very much the concept of individuality versus I guess corporate productivity, where in order to get a job done you kind of have to remove everything about yourself that makes you you, and it creates this kind of factory like setting where you feel like you have to conform. And if you're not of the status quo, you're essentially injected or drugged until you conform, until you become part of the status quo. Um, and seeing the one humanoid character that we follow, it seems that they start to explore different possibilities, different worlds, different things, where they get to see these individual uh, personalities get to be themselves. The dolphins, the bugs, they're all doing their own thing, and the moment they start to, our protagonist starts to question their own identity, they're injected and added back into the system. Um, but yeah, this was it was a very trippy ride.
I think that in kind of modern day society, things are so scheduled and, things are so kind of meticulous almost. The majority of our lives are kind of run on a clock, run on a schedule, run on a routine. We can get kind of stuck in a rut as human beings in this kind of very routine, very scheduled atmosphere. And it can kind of feel like we're spiraling out of control at that point. Um, so I thought this was really, really fascinating. I really enjoyed it. I liked the repetition of it. I liked the way that they kind of portrayed everything. I loved the use of the clock again and again and again. Especially with, like I was saying, like how scheduled and how a lot of our, at least me personally, but I think a lot of people are kind of, they set their routine around a clock. It's all run by a clock essentially. So I thought that that was a really great moment to have the kind of clock recurring and recurring and recurring at different times because different things are happening.
It was very nice use of sound. I liked in music throughout. I liked the escalator sounds, the jungle sounds, and how you didn't ruin it with music in spots where it would be, distracting. I liked the very detailed animation, such as I noticed the yellow in the escalator specifically. Just all the little details throughout were nice. It was an interesting ride though, an interesting animation and colors and, visuals. Was it about humans being controlled by robots that they invented and put to work? So I don't know if I'm reading into that part of it, but it kind of seemed that was sort of what was happening, and it was like a boring existence.